In today's session, we will try to discuss about the relative and absolute addressing. So I have two worksheets over here. The first worksheet is about the relative addressing and the second one absolute addressing. So let us discuss first about the relative addressing. I have this database over here, and the fields what I have in this database are menu item, unit price, quantity and line total. I am supposed to compute the line total for this different menu items. Now I will have to use a formula over here. So this computation will be unit price into quantity is the formula which I'm supposed to use. So I type over here is equal to unit price. I give the cell address for this unit price into cell address for quantity and enter. So upon doing this, I get this value. So as I mentioned, the formula is over here based on the cell address is equal to B4 into C4. Now the next step is the same formula I'm supposed to use for rest of the menu items, for which I'm going to copy this formula down. So over here when I drag this down, meaning I'm copying this formula down. So what happens is the requirement is now here it is B4 into C4. So the moment I copy it down, this will become B5 into C5. That is for the second menu item, it is computing the line total, that is B5 into C5. So here as I copy the formula down, the cell addresses are changing, and that is what the requirement is. So this particular change of cell addresses when the formula is copied down is called as relative cell addressing. So in this particular example, the requirement is that when I copy the formula down, the cell addresses should also change for the subsequent cells, and that is the relative cell addressing. Now I have the next example over here. I have a database, and the fields which I have in this database are customer ID, customer name, address, age, number of days and room charges. So the first question what I have over here is calculate the room charges for every customer. Now in this case I'm supposed to calculate the room charges, for which I have this data in this field, that is number of days, and here I have the room rent per day. So the formula which I need to use over here is number of days into room rent per day. So now what will happen is this will vary for customers, but the room rent per day, this particular cell address will remain same for every customer. So for the very first customer I'm computing this using a formula is equal to, I take this cell address for number of days into room rent per day, that is C2. I press enter and I get this value. So it is I5, that is number of days for first customer, into room rent per day, that is C2. Now when I'm supposed to copy this formula down, because I'm supposed to compute this for all the customers, now what should happen is if I copy this, drag it down, here it will change the cell address. So here it will be I6 multiplied by, it will become C3 if I directly drag this down. But as per my requirement, I want this particular cell address to be remain fixed. That means here I need to give the absolute addressing. I will have to use the dollar symbol for this particular field. So this I can either manually insert, or I can use a function key F4 for using this dollar symbols. So here actually I am making this particular cell as absolute. So when I copy it down, the C2 will remain C2 for all the subsequent cell, whereas I5 will change to I6, I7 and so on when it will be copied down. So now I copy this formula down, and here I am able to compute the values. So for the second customer it is I6 into C2, third one it will be I7 into C2. Here I have made this C2 as absolute. So here this is how we can make this sum of the cell addresses as absolute wherever there is the requirement.